It comes as a surprise to no one that people are contradictory, illogical. It's just the way human beings are. In the Talmud, it talks about, uses a phrase, an example about someone going into a mikvah, a ritual bath, in order to purify himself, but holding a lizard in his hand, the lizard, of course, being unclean. So he's going into a mikvah while holding a lizard, meaning he's defeating his own purpose. This week's Parsha of Riell, for the uninitiated, that's Exodus chapter 35, we read the following. On 6 days work may be done, says God through Moses, but the seventh day shall be holy for you, a day of complete rest for Hashem. Whoever does work on it shall be put to death. And then the very next sentence, God gives us an example of what kind of work he's talking about. You shall not kindle fire. In other words, kindling fire on the Sabbath, on Saturday, gets you a death penalty, according to God. Now, there are an awful lot of people, illogical, frail human beings, who fall into this trap. Okay? What they'll do is, it's Saturday, it's Shabbos, they want to go to shul, and so they'll get in their car and they'll drive there. Well, if you want to drive somewhere, you've got to put the key in the ignition, you're igniting a spark, you're causing a fire. And so what you're doing is exactly what God says you may not do. So think of the contradiction. I want to go worship God, so I'm going to defy him. I'm going to ignore him. I'm going to do exactly what he tells me I shouldn't do. Worse, exactly what he tells me will get me the death penalty if I do it. Illogical. Problem is, a lot of times rabbis won't tell people not to drive to their synagogues because A, they want people in their synagogues, and B, their jobs depend on getting people in their synagogues. I am not a rabbi, I don't have a synagogue, and so I'm free to speak the truth. If you don't live within driving distance of a synagogue, but you want to go on Saturday and you want to worship God, well, there are a few things you can do. Number one, you can walk, if you can. Number two, you can stay over at someone's house Friday night and walk from their house to the synagogue, someone obviously who lives near the shul. Three, you can rent a hotel room near the synagogue and walk from the hotel room. Four, you can move closer. You can buy a house or rent an apartment closer to the synagogue so you can live there. And number five, and probably the easiest of all, is just plain don't go. Don't go. You can pray from home on Saturday. And even though you won't be with the congregation, it's better than doing what God expressly says in the Torah you are forbidden from doing. Our job as Jews, of course, is to worship God, but first and foremost, it's to listen and obey his commandments. Do what he says to do, and don't do what he says not to do. My name's Riell. I'm Yisrael Chai.